Well, okay, everyone. I should call this meeting back to order. Right? And I should conduct a roll call of council colleagues.
Yes, you shall.
Shall I? Okay. Councillor Wright,
Good evening.
Councillor Knack, Councillor Principe,
We are not starting at 6.
Councillor Stevenson,
Good evening.
Councillor Briquette,
Hello.
Councillor Tang, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Rutherford,
Good evening.
Councillor Salvador,
Good evening.
Councillor Cartmel,
Good evening.
Councillor Rice,
Good evening.
Councillor Jans.
Good evening.
Okay,
Hello, I am here as well.
Councillor Tang
I'm
is
here as well, Councillor Principe.
okay, great.
Same here. I think your sound didn't start until Councillor Hamilton, so.
I'm here.
Okay, all right, here we go. All right, Councillor Wright, you got a answer to Councillor Wright's questions, folks?
I do, and my apologies, I walked off with your map. So
Quite all right.
Okay. So in general, these are very minor boundary adjustments, largely because the 1985 maps were out of date. So this reflects new technical information, new information in general to inform the minor changes. So there's no significant reduction in open space from the River Valley overlay.
Okay, so for instance, so on that map for the Southeast District Plan, I kind of felt like the sort of the little hash marks in that around the Fulton Creek were there because maybe the creek bed has changed or something over time.
The original maps didn't include some of those areas, which they now do.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's areas where there's a bit of a thicker hatch pattern, and that's simply because there was enough area to capture the pattern change on a map to illustrate it.
Okay, and then the area around, like, it looks like the block of residences around the, like the Gold Bar Capilano Park area. What's changed there?
From a quick scan, it looked like the boundary may have just erroneously followed a lane or a portion of a lane, which has now been corrected.
Okay, so it's not as if we are removing any of the natural area or the open
No.
space area?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's all I wanted to just double check
And
on.
I can give this back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any other questions to administration? If not, are there any questions from council colleagues to administration, because no one is in opposition or in favor, on any new information arising out of the previous conversation? I see none. Now we are ready to close the public hearing on 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. Councillor
I
Wright?
will close the public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Councillor Stevenson, please vote.
Yes,
I'm
from Councillor Tang.
Councillor Stevenson is also yes. Thank you.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. Just waiting on one more, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
I'll move first reading on item 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4.
Second.
Okay, we have first reading on the floor. Anyone to speak? Councillor Wright to close.
Nothing further.
Please vote.
Councillor Stevenson is yes.
Councillor Tang's a yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Principe is yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
I'll move second reading on items 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4.
Second.
Please vote.
Councillor Tang's a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Tang.
Councillor Prince Pays, yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
I'll move consideration for third reading.
Second.
Please vote.
Councillor Tang's a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Tang.
Councillor Prince Pays, yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
And I'll move third and final reading on Charter Bylaw 21097, Bylaw 21100, and Bylaw 21099.
Okay,
Second.
please vote.
Councillor Tang's a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Tang.
Councillor Prince Pays, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Well done. We dealt with 4 items so far. 3.5 was withdrawn. Next one is Bylaw 21174 to allow for a range of small to medium scale housing, Belgravia, postponed at June 9th, 2025, City Council public hearing. We'll go to administration for a presentation.
Sorry, just a point of order.
Yeah.
Do we need to deal with, I think it's 313 and 14, right after 3233 and 34?
I don't, they need to be dealt in that order, right? We can wait for
Correct. So
Yep.
they just need to come after. They don't
Yeah.
need to come immediately after.
immediately. Okay,
Okay, got it. Thank you.
thank you. All right, presentation, please.
Good evening. This application proposes to rezone a site in the Belgravia neighborhood from the small-scale residential zone, or RS, to the small-medium-scale transition residential zone, or RSM, with a maximum height of 12 meters. Next slide, please. The site is located on 76th Avenue, just west of the 76th Avenue secondary corridor, as identified in the Scona District Plan. The McKernan Belgravia LRT station is approximately 360 meters east of the site, and shared pathways for bike use follow both 76th Avenue between the site and the station, and the LRT line along 114th Street. There are also bus routes along both 76th Avenue and 114th Street. Next slide, please. Engagement for this application included a mailed notice, information on the city's website, site signage, one-on-one communication with residents, and online engagement combined with another application by the same applicant across the street that was received and processed at the same time as this one. Through engagement, 120 people were heard from who shared a wide variety of concerns with the proposal. Respondents were mainly concerned about the proposal exacerbating existing traffic issues in the area, the scale and type of development proposed being out of character with the neighborhood, the current RS zone already impacting neighborhood character, and increased demand for on-street parking, which is already congested. Those in support believe that this is a good location for this scale of building due to its proximity to transit, the river valley, bike lanes, and amenities, and believe that this would provide affordable housing and address the housing crisis. Next slide, please. In the Scona District Plan, the site is located in the urban mix area, just outside the 76th Avenue secondary corridor. Policy 2.5.2.6 of the district policy supports low-rise development in urban mix when the site is within 400 meters of mass transit stations and along a collector roadway. Since the site is approximately 360 meters from the McKernan Belgravia LRT station and 76th Avenue is a collector roadway, that scale, which is more intense than the proposed zone, is supportable here. Next slide, please. The RSM H12 zone is considered compatible with the mostly small-scale residential development in the immediate area. While both the current and proposed zones would allow for a small multi-unit housing development, the proposed zone allows for 1.5 meters more height and an additional 15% of site coverage. This slide shows the comparable massing models of these two zones for visual comparison. Next slide, please. Administration supports this application. It will facilitate an increase in residential density with direct access to the LRT and active modes of transportation, and it proposes a scale that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and will provide transition from the anticipated low and mid-rise development within the secondary corridor. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Now we'll go to folks in favor. Jacob DeWong, are you there? Jacob DeWong. Jarek Connors. Jarek Connors, are you there? William Ian, to answer questions only, right? Okay, or are you making a presentation? Okay, and Ryan Jakes. Ryan Jakes. Okay, are there any questions from council to William Ian? Yes. Councillor Jans, please come down.
Thank you. I guess my first question was, could you speak to the nature of the project? Like how, under the guidelines, how many people do you expect to be sleeping in the building?
We don't have actually design yet, but roughly we have 26 people there, and will be some 2-bedroom. And the majority will be the 1-bedroom, and I think everybody can remember last time we present those kind of bachelor, the macro unit, yeah, those combined together, and the initial idea will be still 3-story building, yeah.
And why this zoning? What is why not the RS zoning?
There will be 3 reasons. The first one will be the unit. The RS zoning only allow you 8 units, so we have more. So this is the first. The other one is a 3-story, and we can go H12, not 10 meters. RS only allowed 10 meters. The third one will be the set coverage. We have more. Those stuff.
I'm sorry, the last one?
Set coverage.
Oh, right.
The RS
yes,
one is the 45%, right?
What is the different site coverage? It's 45% for RS?
Yeah. 80, 60 for the RSM.
Right. Okay. So the desire is to build a larger building at a higher site coverage with a higher height, and to go larger than the unit maximum under the RS.
That's right, correct.
Okay. What sort of a consideration do you have for parking?
Like I last presentation, we don't have any parking, and only at the back will be the amenity area.
Okay. And you've done a couple of these projects now. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Our almost everybody knows cars there because it's the LRT is so close, and bus station, those kind of things. It's a renting property, and all the students either take the car or take the bus. And take the bag or walk there even.
I guess I'm wondering, what sort of demand do you have? Like, and I'll look to legal if I'm down a rabbit hole. Just roll with me.
I would say viability of the development is a relevant consideration.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like, are they partially occupied, fully occupied? Do you have do you have demand for this?
We have some build up one, and it's fully occupied. Yeah, the rent pretty good.
Okay. So one thing I hear about in the area is, are we going to hit a saturation where we have so many one-bedroom or micro-unit student-style, dormitory-style accommodations that there's going to be too many to choose from, and that they're going to be empty, or we're going to have half full buildings. Has that come up for you?
Not really. At least for now, still the demand is there, and we built 3 of them, and it's all rented out. It's not even September yet, right? I think demand is still there.
Okay. I think I'm good for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jens. Councillor Wright?
Thank you. I'm just looking at the planning report, and I noticed in some of the pictures provided that there's a bigger, is that a 2 or 3 story house that's next to it?
Yeah. It's a 2-story there. Yeah.
Okay, so how much higher is this over and above?
Okay, there is 10 meters. We are 12 meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit extra. And then with the 60% site coverage, you're not providing parking. What's the other 40%? I mean, there's going to be something at the front or the back.
Yeah. The garbage bin will have some rooms and a amenity area, those things. Yeah.
Okay. And landscaping at all, like?
Yeah, we will put a nice landscaping. Yeah, I think last time I showed a few pictures.
Okay.
So.
Okay. It's just I hate it when there's just these blue blocks that just sit there.
Yeah.
Okay. That was actually, I think, my only concern was the height in relation to the other house that's there. And that one, the one that's there next to it, that's got the house and it looks like a garage or garden suite. That seems to cover more than 60%.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, actually, I set coverage for 60 is not that bad. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I see none. Thank you so much for joining us. Now we will go to folks in opposition. Catherine Collar, are you there? In person?
I'm here.
Or you're there?
I'm
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes.
I've got some photos, I think, that I
Hold on,
sent.
I'll come back to you when your turn to speak. I'm just going to go through the list of the speakers who have registered to speak. Lorne Wenzel. Lorne Wenzel, are you there? Rob Kearns. Rob Kearns, you're there, thank you.
Yeah, I'm there.
Nicole
Can you hear me?
Klein. Nicole Klein.
Sorry, did you hear me? It's Rob Cairns here.
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mayor Sohi, can you confirm that you're reading for item 3.6 opposed?
Oh, sorry. I got the wrong one. Sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Well, so far names were right, other than one, right? So, okay, Catherine Collar, you're there. Rob Cairns, you're there. Mariam.
Present.
Razavi, you're there. Thank you.
Yes.
How about Jesse Palmer?
He's here as well.
Okay. And Daniel Siberian? Daniel Siberian, are you there? How about Heidi Kafei? Heidi Kafei? Mohsen Madaris? Nicole Klein? No. Felix Mir Stephenson? Sherry Kowalchuk? Philippa Armstrong? Sarah Cooper? David Ridley? Jocelyn Bolton? Sabina Crashy?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we will start with Catherine Caller. Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Hi, my name is Catherine Kohler, and I've lived around the corner from this property for 44 years. And I have 4 photos. Hopefully they've come around. And in addition to the 59 reasons already given in writing by my neighbors on pages 3, 4, and 5 of the planning report for this property, I have 3 additional points. The existing house on this property has not been demolished yet, but typically for developments of the size proposed, during demolition, all trees are leveled. Some developers in our neighborhood, however, are protecting and working around private trees. And these projects are, to me, less problematic because mature trees balance the scale of the building. The city has proposed almost doubling the tree canopy, of which over half is on private property. Mature trees are the major reason why people want to live in our area. And this photo shows very close to the fence line a 70-year-old oak tree that was felled for a property just recently. Second slide, please. As the block connector for the City Abundant Communities Initiative, when our block applied for an Awesome Block Award, I cited my neighbors' commitment to maintaining treed yards and gardens for the benefit of all. However, upsized rezoning is highly disruptive because it leaves scant space for anything green on that property. In addition, when a mid-block rezoning is approved, like this one, it means that adjacent properties can tick that off as one of the 5 rezoning criteria on page 6 of the planning report. And I have read elsewhere that the practice of upzoning mid-block properties is called blockbusting. Third, 2 of the criteria that have been checked off for this rezoning are that it is near 114th Street and 76th Avenue. And these are designated as secondary corridor and collector roadway, but are not functioning that way for many hours each day. Owing to long wait times and the dangerous impatience of drivers, they are often unsafe. And I think we can show those last 2 photos there, which demonstrates what I'm talking about. And here you see a vehicle doing a U-turn because they've given up on trying to get through. And the next one, please. And here you see an emergency vehicle that is stuck in the long, long line, 3 blocks long. I've also seen similar problems at the intersection of 114th Street and 76th Avenue, which is currently under construction for a 200-unit project. And so one of the lanes is always closed, and we see violations all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rob Cairns, please go ahead.
Hi, I should have some slides. Are they up? And sorry, I'm doing this from my phone, so I'm going to be a little bit blind as to.
We got them. Go ahead, please.
Okay, can you go to slide 10? It should say RS to RSM limited to corner lots. So I guess, actually, first off, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and good evening to the council and mayor. The first point I want to make is I believe council spent a whole day discussing this issue on June 30th. And my recollection of that meeting was that the resolution was that there would be no more mid-block RSM rezonings, right? So all I'm asking for council to do is what I thought you had already decided a month and a half ago. So Next slide, please. Should say long wall issue. And this is what you spent the next 3 days debating, that various, refinements to the RS rezoning. And one of the more significant ones was the issue that council seemed to recognize with long walls, really infringing on neighbors' enjoyment of their own property, their own backyards, right? And my understanding is you passed a resolution limiting the long walls to 50% of the lot width or lot length, but allowing lots to simply rezone from RS to RSM, it really undoes this, right? So you spend 3 days talking about this, but now here you are going to undo the very thing that you recognized was an issue and passed, a resolution to prevent. Next slide. It should be a picture of, the proposed typical build form of the RSM zoning, which is a big block, right? It's 12 meters high and setback to setback to setback to setback, right? It covers the whole lot. Next slide. You can see what this results in for the neighbors' properties, right? And this is the thing that it really impacts me. I mean, my neighbor's house is quite old, and I don't want to have to buy their house to continue my enjoyment of my backyard. Next slide, please. Should say traffic study. Edmonton actually has, you might find this strange, but some of the best road networks I've been on. I've driven across the country and the states and what have you. I can get anywhere in the city in 30 minutes, unless I'm leaving my house at 5 p.m. on a weekday, in which case that 30 minutes does not get me out of the neighborhood. Now, this has been an understood issue for at least 10 years. I've heard members of council saying, well, limiting density isn't the solution to traffic problems, that there's other tools for that. And I guess if there truly are other tools, please deploy them, right? I'm very frustrated with this issue. So there is a traffic study outstanding, and I don't believe it's been completed yet. All I'm asking is, again, wait for further density, or wait till the traffic study is complete before you increase density. Next slide, please. When looking at this issue, I did a little bit of research. The zoning bylaw actually is very restrictive of rezoning. It's not just how close you are to a node or corridor or collector or transit center. There's 11 items that you need to, or that council is supposed, or sorry, admin is supposed to analyze. Some of them are on the screen there. Two I'll highlight. Microclimate impacts. I'm not even sure how admin is expected to analyze that, but this is the law that this council passed, that you would analyze these types of things before you zoned. The other one is 3.2.4, which said that you will do an analysis of the impact on traffic. And I think we just talked about that. The traffic study is still pending, to my knowledge. Next slide, please. I also found out there's a documented public engagement framework. And I actually think this city does a very good job of the first 3/4 of that public engagement. You figure out who to engage, you solicit feedback, you collect all that feedback. But the last few steps are analyze and evaluate.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry 5 minutes are up, and really appreciate you joining us. Next, we will go to Miriam Resvi.
Hello.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
please.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll just turn my camera on. Sorry, I'm in the car. I'm actually a resident that lives right next door on the corner lot next to this proposed development. And I'm here today on behalf of 102 residents whose names I've attached and forwarded to City Council with this letter, who've asked me to speak on their behalf today, which is why many of them were not on the roll call. I know you've heard every argument about these brash infills, and I know you've heard the discontent from residents. Frankly, we are all exhausted. So I stand here today not to fight this idea of development, but to ask for a modification that would be mutually beneficial to us all. My family and I, we welcome growth. We want new neighbors. We support the city's need for more housing, and we are open to density. I personally have served on the city's Better Infill board, so I understand these pressures very well. And that is why we want to work with the builder and not against them, so that all parties can live with peace of mind. But as you can see from the report, this particular proposal has hit a nerve with over 115 letters of complaint sent to the city on this particular file alone. That should tell you something, that there is an unprecedented level of frustration because of the unique circumstances surrounding this lot. The builder will argue, as the city admin did, that it meets the minimum 2 out of the 5 criteria. It sits on an arterial road and is within 400 meters of the LRT. And on paper, that is correct. But context matters in every situation, which is why the processes allow you to make a decision here tonight on the case based on what I'm about to tell you. First, the road, as others have mentioned, as many of you know from media coverage, 76th Avenue is a daily nightmare. Twice a day, it backs up 3 blocks or more. Residents are landlocked. Local businesses are hurt. Aggravation is sky high. Every additional unit on this street means cars. Personal, delivery, rideshare, visitors, you name it. Each additional door demands road space that 76th Avenue simply cannot provide. I am sure you have all seen the pictures and videos of traffic on this matter. Second, as for the proximity to the LRT, as being the second deciding factor, I again ask you to look at this case for its unique quality. We are in full agreement that RSM development should be located close to transit, and we appreciate the 400-meter logic as a guideline. But these 400 meters should be considered when logically appropriate. Yes, this property sits at about 396 meters, but those extra 4 meters matter. Granting RSM here would break the natural transition of zoning that, as city planners have pointed out, already exists at 116th Street, where every lot is either multifamily, apartment, or condominium. Everything west of 116th transitions back into residential, and this transition is separated by a road for an organic-looking changeover. So by placing a dorm-style RSM mid-block between 2 family homes, we would really shatter that transition. You've seen the photos, these small homes suddenly cowering next to oversized infills. It's jarring, it's disruptive, and it breaks this natural break that already sits there. And we're talking a matter of meters here, shattering the integrity of an entire street and putting undue stress on 2 homes. Developers' rights inevitably need to be balanced with residents' rights to shape the future of their neighborhoods. And that balance is very much possible here. We are not asking for a rejection of the development. We are asking for a more appropriate form, specifically the RS zoning. An RS build would still advance the city's housing goals. It still supports transit-oriented development. It still provides growth, but it does so in a way that residents can accept and in a way that balances long-term livability with immediate development pressures. It would add that housing supply that would benefit residents and builders without overwhelming 76th Street and without disrupting the natural transition east of 116th Street. Everfor themselves recently changed a similar RSM proposal across the street to RS, demonstrating that this kind of compromise is both feasible to the builder as well as more palatable to the community. Council here has the opportunity to show that public engagement is more than a procedural checkbox. It is genuine, responsive, and rooted in mutual respect, and that is all that we are looking for here today, is to work with the builder and work with the city on something we can all agree on. And on behalf of myself and my neighbors who have signed off on this, I urge you to choose the path of balance and consider the unique factors affecting this proposal. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we will go to Jazzy Parmer. Jazzy Parmer?
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, I want to speak on this as being in the neighborhood, being opposed to the upzoning of this property. I believe that this specific site should not qualify based on the technicality of less than 5 meters. There's virtually no difference between the property across the street to the east by 25 meters was correctly left as an RS zone based upon the city council's meeting and judgment that mid-block medium scale density development should be curtailed. This specific site is quite small and once again in the mid-block, as was relayed by the previous speaker, there is higher density development at east of 116th Street at a natural break, and that whole block is zoned all the way to the LRT. And so if the one technicality of 4 meters from within the radius of the LRT is the reason why this property is upzoned, I think that that is a loss of judgment and the ability for us to nuance the situation and have site by site analysis for development. Once again, I would hope that we can preserve density and have buildings. I believe that the RS zoning for this block allows for great flexibility. That is proven by the developer, which is the same developer that rescinded their request for RSM, is proceeding with the development on that property, and we would ask that that would be the best for this lot, being that it is no different than the one across the street from that property. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we'll go to Danielle Sebran. Nope. How about Sabina Crashy?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So I basically want to reiterate the same points that Miriam was making in her presentation. And I sent in an email with a photo, and you've already seen the photo. Rob showed you the same photo, which is a house not in Belgravia, but it's indicative of what happens when you build these large kind of shoe boxes on either side of a regular house. So basically the reason that I'm against this particular upzoning to RSM is I'm just going to reiterate points you've already heard. The traffic issues specific to 76th Avenue. I think if you put in a building with 21 people, it's just going to be chaos. You may think that they're all going to take public transport, but even if they don't have cars, they'll be having deliveries. And I don't believe they're not going to have cars. I mean, it's just not, that's not realistic in our climate. For sure, you're going to be getting more cars. Where are they going to park? I mean, this is a problem. Can you put up that photo for me, please, that I sent in? Thank you. Yes. Okay. So this picture has been making the rounds. We've all seen it many, many times. It was in an Edmonton Journal article as well. It's a house in Crestwood. I think it's on 147th Street. So there's the parking. In addition, the loss of mature trees. That's something that another person mentioned initially, one of the first speakers. What do people like in neighborhoods? In the July 2025 edition of Edify magazine, they asked people, and the favorite thing that everybody said was trees. number one. Mature neighborhoods with many trees. That's what people think is the best. So if you, I mean, as you can see in the photo that we saw earlier where that mature oak tree had been felled, if you're going to cover 60% of a lot, you're going to be removing trees, the private trees. And that's what people like most in a neighborhood. Now, I understand university students who come from abroad, they're just coming to get an education. They have no investment in our city, in our neighborhood, in the quality of life for those of us who live here permanently. They're going to do their degree and leave. So what do they care if there's no trees? They don't. They'll be sitting in their room studying anyway. It's the rest of us who will live with the loss of those trees. So I say this kind of change has to be considered in light of the people who actually live here year round, year after year, decade after decade. We may not be able to put more money in the city's coffers in the same way that a developer does, but we're actually the people who elected you, and I believe you're accountable to us. That is how I understand our system. So I think this is very important. Trees, in addition, they add to the biodiversity of the city. They increase our ability to be climate resilient throughout the year, especially if we engage in active transportation. For example, being able to walk and bike under the shade on hot days, protecting against cold winds when walking and biking in the winter, also absorbing more water in large rainstorms. The other thing is, if you change the zoning, right now we've been told this is going to turn into kind of a lodging house. This developer was honest enough to tell us that's actually what's going to happen. But in many cases, when there's a petition to change the zoning from RS to RSM, there's no communication to the community about what is going to be put there. And so a lot of people feel extremely on edge because they don't know what's going to go up. I mean, is it going to be one of these giant shoe boxes? I think that this is something that needs to be thought about. You don't want to give zoning certainty to developers at the direct expense of the community. And I guess just the last thing to say is really just that photo. It's not only a loss of privacy, but people's property value goes down. I know people in Belgravia who trying to sell a house because they're now next to a huge shoebox. They can't find buyers. People don't want to live next to these things, you know? So that's another thing to think about. Thank you for hearing me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. So that is
Mayor Sohi, it's my
Sorry, I
understanding.
think
Oh, that there is
I was missed. Yeah, I was missed getting
okay,
called. Sherry
I'll go.
Kolchuk.
Who is that? Sorry, I'll just hold on. Okay, I
Sherry
will.
Kolchuk.
Okay, I will go through the list again just to make sure that is Heidi Caffey there? Is Mohsen Moderis there? Nicole Klein? Felix Muir Stephenson? Sherry Kowalczyk, please go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to take this time to register my opposition to this upzoning. I am a longtime resident of Belgravia and have resided in Edmonton since I was 3. The manner in which council and administration has unleashed all manner of development with mid-block monstrosities and boarding houses and easy upzoning approvals is irresponsible and eroding community trust, cohesion, and decreasing vibrancy in our great city. It would seem to me that council is more interested in pandering to developers' greed than listening to constituents. I mean, you just look at the numbers of people that were against this, 111 against 9. I have spoke to my neighbors. I know the homeowners beside and adjacent to these proposed developments. I have discussed with Edmontonians throughout the city, and I have not found one person who believes council is steering development correctly with Bylaw 20,001. The idea that in a block with already very developed single-family homes, that this is being even considered is abhorrent. Let's see how the already lax, overzealous 8-unit plays out. Let's revise and refine that before allowing further upzoning. I encouraged council and Mayor Sohi to walk in the neighborhoods where these properties are underway or built. Take a look at what they look like. Read the letters being sent to you and the photos being shared with you. And think about what these decisions mean for families in real life. I also wanted to just point out that in 2024, we approved 18,200 permits for development, which reached over half of what we were required to get the $175 million CMHC Accelerator Fund for the City of Edmonton, which I know is important. And we still have a lot more time to reach those numbers. With the 5% CMHC MLI Select mortgages, I'm assuming you all know what those are, it's allowed for developers to be able to build with very little skin in the game. And it's created quite a frenzy with developers, as we've seen with all these upzonings and 8 units. We need our elected representatives to stand up for their constituents and rein in this wild west of development until we have figured out how these sweeping changes made with Bylaw 2001 play out. I want to thank you, Council and Mayor Sohi. I very much appreciate being allowed to use my civic right to speak on this matter. Please know, though, that not every mom or dad or senior or student or employee can allocate an entire day to exercise this civil right, but that does not mean that they don't feel the same way I feel. I encourage you to door knock and talk to your constituents. Bylaw 2001 has already gone too far, and further upzoning requests on RS lots need to be stopped. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see if Philippa Armstrong is there. Sarah Cooper, David Ridley, Joyce Bolton. Okay. All right. Now questions to the panel. Councillor Jans, go ahead, please.
Thank you. My question is for Guest Cairns. Guest Cairns, I think you're aware that at the July 5th Urban Planning Committee, we passed a motion around lodging houses that we asked administration to prepare an analysis of how lodging houses are defined, regulated, and permitted, and provide options to further regulate their size and location to ensure that their impacts and their operations are regulated appropriately through the zoning bylaw. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, but I don't think they're proposing a lodging house, are they? They're proposing 27 unique units. But I was aware you did propose something, and that it does address another problematic property in my neighborhood. Well, it may address it.
Yeah, because I think that's where I'm kind of, like, I visited and I've seen examples of RS zone, or where it's an 8-plex, it's like 4 basement suites, usually 1 bedroom, and then 4 upper suites, more townhouse style. And that's, in my mind, what the RS zone is kind of the intention of it was supposed to be for those row housing type projects. For this, because it's another one, it's a level above that, it would essentially be that plus a 3rd story, and I think, as we heard from the applicant, it would be a mix of microsuites, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. So I guess some of my hesitation is around with the RM12 zone is exactly what we're signing up for. And by way of this, so your proposal, and I think I heard from guest Razavia as well, if she wants to jump in, is your preference would be that council denies the zoning today and passes the RS zone, is that correct?
Correct, Councillor Jans, thank you. Yes, we are in favor of infill density, and we believe that that can be achieved with the RS zoning without disrupting this mid-block lot. And so that's how we want to show our good faith in working with council and with the builder.
Right. So if it was east of 116, within the, like, much closer to the train, something else may be appropriate. But because it's kind of 2 blocks away, mid-block, your preference is I think I hear your preference being RS. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, because every other property east of us is multi-use family housing or apartments or condominiums. And so there are better lots suited for this type of RSM zoning and not this one for all the reasons that we have provided to council.
And can I just add to that?
Yeah.
115 is already zoned RM. No hearings required. The developer, there are some end of life properties there that the developer, if they want to build apartments, should definitely go and buy, demolish, and build nice apartments. I like there are lots of opportunities to build multi-unit apartments in Belgravia.
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. Mr. Mayor, I don't think I have anything further. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cairns, you talked about the traffic assessment and that, and I think I'm reading in the report that there was sort of a minimal impacts to the mobility network. But where the problem seems to be is with that rush hour traffic going through the neighborhood. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, I'm sorry if I didn't in 5 minutes. I don't have time to explain it. But
okay.
From 4:30 to 6 o'clock, it can take up to 30 minutes on a weekday, not on a weekend. On a weekday, it can take up to 30 minutes to get out of the neighborhood, right? And you know where that impacts. Just so you understand where that impacts my quality of life, right? I have children that have volleyball class or practices or games they have to go to, or guitar practices. You know, people have things that they're not far out of the neighborhood, but they need to drive kids with equipment and what have you, right? And it's just asking them to take a bus or a train, and it's not realistic, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand. I used to have to taxi my kids around too for all of their sports, but I don't know if this
30
is
minutes
if the congestion,
that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, if it's the result of residents or if it is commuter shortcutting. And I think that was the motion that Councillor Jan put through, was to have that assessment done.
And I can't tell you what it is. I'm just telling you, adding more people inside the neighborhood isn't helping. I can't tell you whether it's 20% people in the neighborhood or 20% shortcutting or 80%, right? That's why the study should be done.
Okay.
May I jump in? Sorry, may I jump in with a quick response?
Sure, is that Miriam?
It is,
Okay.
yes. Can I add that a lot of the people that had written in were actually physicians that live in our neighborhood. There was a real problem with fire trucks, ambulances getting in and out. And yes, there is some commuter cut through, but a lot of it is us trying to get in and out of our own neighborhood and are unable to, which is why this particular street is just a nightmare, and it just is not an ideal place for this type of zoning moving forward.
So do you have that type of congestion? Like I'm thinking like 10 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night? Or is it just at that rush hour?
It's twice a day. It's about twice a day. And I have sat in that line longer than 30 minutes. It's anyone that has seen it knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's made the media. It's been so bad. And Councillor Jans had put forward a motion to do a traffic study because of the fact that it's so bad. And that traffic study hasn't been done yet.
No.
And we actually don't know what the status is on that traffic study.
Okay, but I'm just trying to get a sense. Is it commuter traffic? Like just from your own experience, because I know, on 34th Street, 17th Street in the southeast, traffic builds up at rush hour.
It's a lot of us trying to get in and out. It's us trying to get into our neighborhood, out of our neighborhood at those particular hours, and are unable to. And it's made the media. It's been so bad.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted some clarity around that, and I don't know if I got it or not. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Wright. I have some questions as well. Councillor Knack, you there? Or I can cede it to Councillor Wright, who's here.
I'll take the chair.
Councillor Wright, okay. Thank you. So maybe I'll stay with you, Speaker Rezvi. So what I understand, over a month ago, we made some design changes to to RS. So that's kind of a social contract that we have with the community now with up to 8 units on RS. Are you okay with that if it's up to 8 units?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. And as I mentioned, I have sat on the Better Infill Board. And so I know better than most the need for this type of density, and we absolutely welcome it. But, you know, it has to have some sort of limit. And we feel that this type of density is completely sufficient given the area that it is in, and that this type of dorm style housing in between two houses is simply not suitable. And we would, you know, and again, we're willing to work with the builder. We are compromising on an RS zoning.
Yeah. Do you see this as a kind of agreement, a social contract with council and communities and developers that through lengthy conversation of years of infill conversation that we have landed on an agreement where everybody had to compromise, particularly communities had to compromise to accommodate more infill, and we settled that we could build up to 8 units on RS lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be a compromise. That's how the civic process works. At least I hope that's how the civic process works.
Mm-hmm. So you feel this as kind of violation of that social contract now that we are up, there's an application to upzone from RS to RSM?
Yes, correct. And I think that I speak on behalf of many community members across many communities that feel that we have been completely unheard. In the midst of this, we are living the daily grind of it, and we are not unreasonable people. We are willing to work with builders, but there has to be some give and take. And I feel that lately there hasn't been that. And this is a prime example of that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for that. I will move that's all my questions have. I'll move the second round.
Okay, and
Sorry, my
seconder?
questions are for administration.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take
All
the
right.
chair back then. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you joining us and waiting. We have concluded the questions to folks in opposition. Now we're going to go to questions to administration. Councillor Jans.
Thank you very much. In the presentations, they showed that picture of the home in Crestwood between the two infill projects beside it. I was just looking to confirm with administration, with the suite of changes we made on June 30th and July 5th, would a situation like that be, given the wall, the length changes, etc., would a situation like that, would we see a similar photo like that in future?
The chicken plate to go.
I'm sorry, if you could
We have concluded questions to members of the public. We are asking questions of city staff now. Okay, city councillor, we'll start your clock again, Councillor Jans.
Yeah, no worries. Administration.
So, Councillor, in the RS zone, no, there was a maximum limit placed on the length of building in the RS zone of 25 meters or 50% of the lot length through the amendments approved in council in July. When it comes to this zone in particular that's being proposed, the RSM zone, that regulation doesn't exist.
So for the RSM zone, like if it's upzoned to a higher zoning, you could see a much longer wall. But if it's in the RS zone, which that's the baseline here, the unit would be no longer than 25 meters. Is that correct?
Or 50% of the lot.
Or 50% of the lot.
And that's not a bug of the system. The RSM zone is a larger scale zone meant to accommodate more density. Therefore, it has greater permissions through site area and height, etc. Because of its placement and its allowable areas around transit centers such as this, that is why you see that discrepancy between the zones.
Right. So going back to that picture, then that's an example of something that was built under the old regulation that has since changed, so we shouldn't be seeing those sorts of approvals in the RS zone anymore. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're pretty well close to 400 meters on the site. But is what the speaker shared correct, that everything west of the corner is in the RS zone and everything east of the corner is in the RM zone?
That's correct.
Okay, so there already is kind of a tapering here?
Yes.
And so what would be possible east of this site across the street in the RM zone?
East of this site across the street would be in the secondary corridor and would permit up to mid-rise development because it's along a collector, so that's up to 8 stories.
Okay, so I would like to make a decision today and provide certainty to both the community and the developer, but I also was wondering about the value of a refer back to look at the lodging houses motion that we've seen, because I think we're seeing more and more of these proposals in the I want to be precise here. I think it's the RSMH 12 that functionally it seems to be used in the area as kind of a high density dormitory style student housing product. And I'm not sure if that's sort of what we intended of the RSM 12 zone. So could administration, I guess, share any thinking around that? I realize like we've already passed direction to get a lodging house analysis, but while we have this in front of us now, I'm just trying to understand that a bit better. What sort of product were we, like when we did the zoning bylaw, was envisioned under RSMH 12?
The RSMH 12 was envisioned as a transition from our corridors or inner corridors to the neighborhoods, or from our corridors to the neighborhoods. So there's policy within the district policy that anticipates some of that gradient or that transition happening in the RSM, and is a reflection of that, the regulatory reflection of that policy. Lodging houses, they aren't based on what they look like. When we go through the development permit process, we do look for a declaration that a development does not have individual sleeping units that are rented out, like in order for it to not be a lodging house, but it's not based on its form.
Okay, so I'm thinking of like stacked townhouses, like in Terwillegar Town. Is that RSM? Maybe. Or how about down in Rossdale, like the
It would certainly be reasonable to expect that type of development within the RSM zone that you just described.
Right. Okay. But I think what we're functionally seeing around the university is much more of the rectangular 3-story dormitory style RSM. Or have we seen other examples of this?
There are other examples like of development that is happening within the RS and the RSM. It's not all one form.
Okay, so if we are to I'm way over time.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Thank you. So in regards to the traffic assessment that's going to be completed then, like are you just doing a count on, at rush hour commuter vehicles, or are you determining, throughout the day? What will that assessment, I guess, include?
Councillor, it will include more targeted approach towards the peak hours, but then also looking outside the peak, because we would like to investigate the shortcutting issue that is in the area, which could happen even outside of peak hours as well. But generally speaking, yes, as you have already heard, and there is that appreciation that during peak hours it is the worst case scenario.
Okay, and but so like would that assessment sort of maybe determine whether it was residents in the area or whether it was commuters?
Yeah, that's the purpose of the report, to do some kind of analysis through the data collection and have that evidence-based approach towards finding some mitigation measures.
And I'm a little bit intrigued by the feedback to Google Maps to prevent the identification of alternate routes. You could do that?
Yes, we have done that.
Okay. But for those that already use it and know about it, they're going to continue to take it until something's done, right?
That's true.
Okay. And then I'm just also wondering, I know like we sort of rejigged the design standards back in July for the RSM, right? Is there anything that can be done to make this type less of a giant block?
So the changes that were made for RSM specifically were related to policy. The regulatory changes that were made to the RS zone. If
Okay,
council-
sorry, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, but is there, I mean, could we do a policy that would have to, have it look, I guess, more like a house?
Yes.
Yes?
With council's direction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to dig in on a few technical pieces. So, the wording in the report talks about this being 360 meters from the LRT station. I think the visual that's provided, and I think I heard some different numbers from speakers, but then the image that's shown on page 6 of the report seems to show the site sort of pretty close to that 400-meter radius. So I'm just wondering, and again, if the drawing, the dashed line, seems to be less than the 40 meters that's suggested.
Councillor, I think probably just a difference in measuring, say, to the entrance to the LRT station or from the platform itself. So maybe a slight discrepancy there. But the intention and the way that things are written in the district policy is that you'd use the platform. And so you don't actually get really a circle, but you get sort of an elongated circle because the platform's longer, and that's what's meant to be shown visually, but it's not showing the full shape because it's zoomed in.
It's more just the proximity of the boundary of that shape to the site. Because I take the point that I think I'm hearing from speakers that, the blue dashed line on page 6 seems to end basically on the next site over, which is only 3 sites in from the corner. So is there value in just keeping it to the corner? But again, if that site is 360 meters, another 40 meters pushes that further out.
Yeah, and obviously, if we were reviewing the next site over to the west, that might be a little bit more challenging. But for us, this site is clearly within 400 meters. It meets the policy. It's along the collector roadway. As far as we're concerned in terms of our interpretation of that policy, this is the level of development that we expect.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. I think just for clarity of the community, I think what they're feeling is that the 400 meters just barely gets into this block. But again, from the numbers, 360 meters, I just think there's a bit of a discrepancy there about where we're counting 400 meters to, and then counting the site as being 360 meters.
Councillor, we're counting from the platform, and the policy says 400 meters, and that's the line that we've drawn, and it's within that 400-meter radius.
Okay, I'm not seeing a 40-meter distance from the site to the 400-meter radius is what I'm struggling with.
Okay. Sorry, what's the it's within the 400 meters. I appreciate that you aren't that there is a difficult to decipher where that 40 meters is, but there is a lot between. If you think of a frontage of a lot, it's in proximity. It's within the 400 meters.
Okay, and then when we were reviewing the RSM policies, I think we had discussed this, just around the idea of sort of a single lot versus a consolidated lot. And I'm thinking from this, we didn't end up providing any direction around single sites versus consolidated lots. Is that correct?
We added a little bit more language to the consider additional scale policy, where we have to consider site size and context, but we are using a policy that does not reference that same language. So we can consider single lot rezonings in this case.
Okay. And I guess just from we do often hear this idea of sort of a coherent or cohesive block. What is sort of the planning rationale? Is there planning rationale about having a clean break at a street versus midway in a block?
I think for this, we do have those clean breaks when it comes to the corridors. And so you will see that clean break. You see it there on page 6 in the report. We're using a policy that does not necessarily have those clean breaks. We really are measuring from the platform 400 meters. And in that case, we are considering this application in relation to that. And we recognize that in this case, we don't have that clean break. But it still stands to reason that this is a site within close proximity to the LRT and is still going to get all those same benefits. And so, yeah, that would be sort of the principle behind that policy.
Okay, great. And again, sort of that clean break with the node and corridor. Again, that would be a higher level of development as well.
Yeah, like I said, up to 8 stories.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just so when I remember when we were discussing the bylaw, we talked about like the possibility of sort of like a fuzzy line rather than a hard stop. And of course, in planning documents, you need to have like it's binary. It's yes or no along that line, not a maybe. That's where public hearing comes in. Is that sort of my correct understanding?
In public hearing does have a role in that for sure. And the district policy, in addition to low rise and giving us direction for that, the district policy also gives us direction about transition from the nodes and corridors into neighborhoods. And that's where that discussion, like you said, of the gradient and the fuzziness all came in. And the policy that we're talking about today that informs our recommendation is part of that.
Yeah, and it's an interesting question because, now that it's in public hearing, that's when we have the discussion about whether it's appropriate or not, rather than just the yes, no. And it's fascinating. So, like, this is a corner lot, right? Yeah, I'm seeing that correctly, or no?
Not a corner lot, no.
Oh, that's an alley.
One in from the corner.
Right, one in from the corner. Okay, so it's not a corner lot. So that makes it a little more interesting to me. And that, like, now, if you just stick with what's on paper, I think you would go ahead probably. But this is where the art of urban planning comes in, isn't it? And where you sort of decide, okay, does that make sense in this context?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's an interesting discussion. Okay. So thank you. I've got a lot to think about here. Thank
you, Councillor Paquette. Councillor Wright, can you take the chair, please?
I have the chair.
Maybe Kim, I'll start with you. Like, I'm really, I wouldn't say troubled is a strong word, but I'm concerned. Like, we have gone through a lengthy conversation with communities over the last, number of public hearings last month, and we have this social contract, and you were pushing to go down to 6 from 8. And here we are going beyond 8, right? And I don't think we are honoring that social contract that we have with communities.
And there's slightly different conversations as well. A lot of what we discussed through June was related to the small scale residential zone and more specifically through the mid-block developments within the small scale.
But this is mid-block.
And there's a proposal here to rezone it to a different zone. The RSM.
But this is mid-block. It's currently RS. RS, we just gave approval about a year ago, and we made some modifications about a month ago.
That's right. Yeah, and council can, not approve this bylaw. That's we're, as administration, are translating the policy interpretation as it relates to this site. But if council feels that
So policy interpretation is because it's just on the edge of that 400-meter radius.
Yeah, and I'd look to the team to just share more on the details of the policy direction from the district plans, but it is related to the 400-meter within transit, and it's on a collector, or 76 is an arterial or collector? Sorry.
I think it would be helpful if we could go to slide 4, please, for the clerk. And yes, Ms. Petrin is correct. So our support for this today is because it is within 400 meters of the LRT and located along the collector roadway, which is 76th Avenue.
Yeah, I know. I know. You're within the policy. I understand that, but I am more concerned about the trust that we are trying to build, and I pushed hard against. I pushed hard to keep at 8. So I'm really struggling with this. So that's why I'm trying to understand, like, if community is agreeable to honor RS and accept up to 8 units, why would we not listen to the community?
So that conversation was in relation to RS broadly across mid-block sites. across the city. In this case, there's very important context here. This is a site that's within 400 meters. I'm sorry to keep repeating myself, and along a collector road. So there was a lot of engagement that was done to bring us to this area of policy. And so I wouldn't say that there's any trust being broken with the community. This is in our policy. Okay. That went through the public hearing process. This is the type of development that, again, we expect within. Yeah, I think
that, don't take me wrong. I'm not. I understand you're within policy. I'm not saying that you're breaking trust with the community, but I'm struggling. Maybe I think I'm breaking trust with the community, because that's what my understanding of RS, that we can build up to 80 units. Maybe I'll stop here, and I'll take the chair back. Councilor Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to come back to the idea of a single lot versus a consolidation, and I guess if there was interest in exploring that at a policy level, where would be the home for that type of potential change or contemplation of that kind of change?
So the work that was done earlier in June, July was with the small scale policy. The policy that we're using to support this application is low rise. So if we can support something that is low rise, we can also support small medium scale, is essentially where we're the policy that we're using to support this. So if there is concern from council about the application of whether that's consolidated lots, all on corner sites, or whatever it is for low rise, then yes, that's where it would sit.
Councillor, just to add, it could be either in the zoning bylaw or in the district plans itself. The zoning bylaw would provide a strict, say, site size minimum for either the RSM or the RM zone, or you can look to add additional policy depth into the district plans and the site location criteria around adding some more robust language around not only should it be in not mid-block, but if it's mid-block, it should be in 2 lots or whatever it may be. And I think that an analysis could be done on where it would best sit, and we could bring that back to council.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to be as prescriptive as to say, like, I think it's better to go in the district plan at policy level or within the zoning itself. Is there a natural fit if there was interest in exploring that? Could that fit into an existing body of work that is underway, or would this be starting something new?
There's a number of pieces in flight right now. There's the larger motion that came out of the July conversation. So I think what would be appropriate is that I wouldn't look to tie it today, but we could take that back and we could mold it and bring it back either as a separate piece of work or a part of that other existing work that's ongoing right now.
Okay, but you'd need direction on that.
Correct, yeah, and I think what both or what council's articulating or struggling with here is that intersection of both policy and regulation and real-time decision-making, where when you're faced with approving district plans or larger policy on a broad scale, it can hit 85–90% of it. But when you get to those site-specific cases, there may be some unique contexts or some difficulties that arise that may sway thoughts on either side.
Yeah, and expected that as we've seen things performing in real life, that there might be these kinds of conversations arising. Okay, I will take that and potentially draft something up. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Councillor Salvador. That concludes the questions to administration. At this time, I will ask. Just hold on. At this time, I will ask if there are any questions from council to folks in favor, in opposition, or to administration on any new information arising out of the previous conversation. I see none.
May I speak at this time?
No, I am so sorry. We have concluded questions to members of the public. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Councillor Jans.
I'll move closure of the public hearing.
Thank you. We need a seconder. Okay, please vote to close the public hearing.
Yes.
Councillor Stevenson is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Just waiting on Councillor Paquette and Councillor Rutherford. Yes,
It's been around, so I'm a yes.
thank you. We have all the votes.
Okay, all right, we have closed the public hearing. Do anyone want to move the first reading?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
I'll move the first reading.
Need a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Knack. Okay, we have a first reading on the floor. To speak, Councillor Jans.
Thank you. Initially I was thinking we should refer this back so it comes back together with the row housing proposal, and then not the row housing proposal, the lodging house reports. Then we could, have a frank conversation about how the RSM 12 zone is being used, because what I've seen in the area, at least around the U of A, I don't think it's functioning as I think initially conceived. But where I'm at now, I think there is as Councillor Paquette said, there's art and science to this, and I think the fact that from the LRT station you have 2 full city blocks, many of which have already high density apartments on them, including Belgravia Square and the other townhouses and a 6-story building under construction right now. I think there's already opportunity in those two blocks. The fact that this is a mid-block site across 116th Street in what's functionally getting into more of the lower scale area, I think you could just sort of see it when you're there that this is maybe not the best place for it, as if it was east of 116th Street. So I think also the fact that the applicant pulled the application on the north side of the street, almost indirectly the same area, I think may also weigh into the considerations here too for them think about what's possible or not here. So I think the RS zone is very well suited for this site. I think especially with the changes that we made to the RS zone, reducing the massing, increasing the setbacks, improving the visual appeal, improving the other changes to the zone. I think an RS project here would much better fit the context of the community than an RSM, than something else on this site. So I would, given the block considerations and everything else, I mean, I could see how admin would certainly interpret. I don't fault them in their analysis. I certainly see that, but that's where we come in and we get to have put a bit of the art on the science here. And I think I would urge my colleagues to let this one stay as RS here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just rapidly writing here. By policy, this falls just within that 400-meter radius of the LRT, which makes the request technically supportable. And I also want to acknowledge administration's work in bringing this forward. However, land use isn't just about meeting distance thresholds. It's also about whether scale and massing are appropriate to the site and how it fits into the existing and planned context. So, and this particular lot is not on a corner, and moving from RS to RS14, that's what it is, right? Yeah, represents a very significant jump in intensity. In practice, it would introduce a built form that stands out sharply from the surrounding pattern, but as far as stated need for housing, it actually does fit the bill. The zoning itself is not really the core problem here. What has unsettled people is the combination of unexpected variables that all landed at once. A sudden surge in population growth, a tight housing market, and federal programs that are rapidly driving new unit production. Taken together, this has created pressure and the change feels much faster than anyone anticipated. And unfortunately, it's council that wears it, and that's fine. But these are variables that happened out of our control. The actual plan for the infill was a gentle increase in density over many years. But because of all these sudden variables that literally no one in the country could have predicted and did not predict, that's why we're here today. This also happens to be why we are reviewing all of this. And if people haven't got the memo, we already embarked on that review over a month ago. For some reason, that's not making the headlines. But taken together, the pace and scale of external factors have intersected with local land use decisions. But the question for council is this the right land use for this specific lot? That's the hat we've got to wear. In my view, the transition here feels too abrupt. The RS zoning already provides for a range of gentle forms. And there are other locations nearby that are more suitable for a higher intensity development. So on balance, while the application is reasonable in terms of meeting policy and distance, and it is, I do not find the land use contextually appropriate for this site. And for that reason, I am leaning toward a no today. Now, if we did not have the zoning bylaw, by the way, I would absolutely be voting yes for this today. I just want that to be very clear. It's the zoning bylaw that is informing my decision to vote no on this. So people who do not like the zoning bylaw should probably be aware that without it, I would be looking at this as a much needed development for housing. But we do have a zoning bylaw that makes allowance for that appropriately. So once we right-size things, because of that, those various factors that I mentioned, obviously things will start to settle, but I just want that to be crystal clear. It's the zoning bylaw that exists today that means that I am leaning toward no toward this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Briquette. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the discussion on this, and I think that administration's recommendation is very much within the policy guidelines. And for me, it's just highlighting that I think I failed to convey and ensure that it was embedded in the policy, just around, I think, how some of these single lot rezonings are sitting with me, and how I think they potentially impact our broader vision. So I think, again, if this was a consolidated site, if this was a larger one where, again, even if we were seeing low-rise development, I think I'd be more likely to support. But I think that this type of one-off zoning, not one-off, I shouldn't say, this type of single lot rezoning, I think creates challenges in terms of the pattern of development, and appreciate the questions that Councillor Salvador brought forward, and look forward to being able to articulate that a bit more clearly in our policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Sohi. I'm listening intently to my colleagues who I think are providing some interesting perspective on this. My gut normally says the 400 meters within an LRT station is where we go for this. But I'm hearing the feedback from the ward councillor and their suggestion around this. I heard Councillor Salvador suggest that I think the subsequent motion might be coming about how we tackle this, and this goes to Councillor Stevenson's point around if there were 3 lots here consolidated, we might actually do more. And so I'm open to that conversation, albeit I would probably flag, just based off what I've heard today through the discussion, I'm not actually sure that would be the desired outcome of the residents that we just heard from. So even if there was a consolidation, which I think from a land use perspective, you could make a case would make more sense to help with that transition, to help with everything that we've heard about. I'm not sure that actually addresses a lot of what I've heard today. And so I'm willing to potentially defer to the ward councillor and some of my colleagues and say no, with the expectation that there would be a follow-up motion. But I just want to caution us that I'm not sure that actually solves the problem that we heard about today. So something we would need to think about through that additional work going forward, assuming there is, and I believe there will be a follow-up motion on this. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'll take a listen to some other folks before making a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Oh, thank you. I guess I don't think, yeah, being, if it was corner lot, I would, yeah, totally agree with this. But because it is mid-block, one in from that, it's still a rather large house, so there is some, I guess, transition from the corner lot, but then the transition down to the neighboring lots, I think, is quite drastic. Looking at the other items that we have coming forward or that we have in public hearing today, and that I think there are others that are more appropriate to go the higher zoning, but I don't think this one is today. I don't think it's going to deal with the traffic concerns either way that the residents are concerned with, and looking forward to getting that transportation study when that does come out, and I forgot to ask when that was going to be, but okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Can you take the chair too?
I have the chair.
Thank you. I am not comfortable with rezoning this site from small-scale residential zone to RSM 12. For me, it comes down to, even though it fits in the 400-meter radius, I get that, but it's right on the edge. For me, question is that we have gone through a very lengthy conversation, and I haven't heard community members, as I have heard today from these folks, that they are willing to accept up to 8 units under RS zoning. I think that is something I want to honor, because community is coming along to accept gentle density in their neighborhoods, and we settled that we could build up to 8 units on those lots, even in mid-block, when there was a push to actually get down to 6. So I think that's the social contract that I want to honor, and I'm not comfortable breaking that social contract. And that's why I would not be supporting this. I think staying with RS provides opportunities for density, and there are enough RSM opportunities available in the neighborhood as well. For me, it comes down to that trust. It comes down to bringing communities along and honoring that commitment. Okay. And I will take the chair back.
Mr. Mayor, I got a weird one. I got a little point of order against myself.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What is it?
In
Against yourself? Is there even a point of order against their own? No, it can't be.
I'm just
Point of order, Mayor, so.
But it is
There's no
a
point.
necessary clarification. In my notes, I wrote down RSM 14.
Yeah.
And that's why I paused on that, but I know it's RSM 12. I just
RSM
want that
12,
to
yeah.
be very clear before I vote.
Yeah, it's RSM
That
12.
I know exactly what we're voting on.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Rutherford to close.
Yes. I'm in a precarious position now because I moved the first reading. So I'm going to talk about why I think that this makes absolute sense, is where I'm going to start with this and continue with this as I am. So for those that don't know, if you move the first reading, you can't speak against your motion. So that's the conundrum I'm in right now, because I see the pros and cons. We have been very clear with giving new policy direction, with, you know, I think even as recently as June 30th, I remember phoning in from a wedding because we were talking about further limiting RS, like the RSM zone. And that was defeated by council, right? We wanted to keep on that, especially in areas of transit-orientated development where we have the infrastructure like LRT that we've invested, you know, billions of dollars in. So, and on the flip side, I just think about recently at another public hearing, it was administration came forward with a non-support for an RSM rezoning that we supported in Calder. That's not near any LRT or mass transit. So if this fails today, I will not be supporting any further RSM mid-block, period. Because we need to be consistent. And so I think this is getting too inconsistent, and that means if we have to make policy changes to be clear as a collective of where we go, because this must be extremely confusing to our administration. So I empathize with you right now in this. But I do understand that it is really jarring, and I've been thinking a lot over the recess about the zoning bylaw and some of the changes that I think have really made that what we intended, as Councillor Paquette mentioned, about like this slow transitional progress over time, had a bunch of variables that nobody could have anticipated. I think Councillor Paquette said that so eloquently. So thank you for that. And yet, I think that there is still way better ways to address the concerns that we hear rather than stopping housing for students or people that are going to university or work at a university near transit in a rezoning such as what's in front of us right now. So for those reasons, I might be the lone vote, but I am going to vote yes to this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Please vote.
I'm a no.
Thank you, Councillor Jans.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Salvador. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is defeated.
But I'm staying true to my word.
All right, now we are going to go. Next one is 3.7. Bylaw 21184 to allow for a range of small to medium scale housing in Belgravia, postponed at June 9th, 2025, City Council public hearing, exempt by Councillor Jans. We'll go to administration for a presentation. Faisal, you haven't had a single question today. Have you had any questions?
I had one.
Oh, you had one. Okay, I thought I wasn't paying attention then. You've been around all day. Only one question. Okay. All right. Okay, all right. Presentation, please.
Good evening. This application proposes to rezone a site in the Belgravia neighborhood from the small-scale residential zone to the small-medium-scale transition residential zone with a maximum height of 12 meters. Next slide, please. This site is located at the southwest corner of 75th Avenue and 116th Street and just south of the 76th Avenue secondary corridor. The site is in close proximity to a variety of amenities, including the McKernan Belgravia LRT station, local local commercial, open space, and schools. Next slide, please. Through engagement, 9 people were heard from who shared a wide variety of concerns with the proposal. Mainly, people were concerned with the existing state of traffic congestion in the neighborhood and believed that the existing RS zone already allows for enough infill opportunities and is in closer alignment with the neighborhood's existing character. The Belgravia Community League also provided a letter of non-support, citing concerns related to the city's approach to infill that is leading to speculation, unaffordability, adverse climate impacts, and the potential for new development to be used as an Airbnb or lodging housing purpose. Next slide, please. At the June 30th, 2025 public hearing, Council passed an amendment to the district policy that provides direction for where more intense forms of small-scale development located outside of nodes and corridors can be supported. Because this site is located on a corner within 100 meters of a secondary corridor and within less than 400 meters from a mass transit station, the rezoning to RSMH 12 is supported by district policy. Next slide, please. The RSMH 12 zone is considered compatible with the small-scale residential development in the immediate area, especially as it is located on a corner with 3 roadways that buffer the additional height and site coverage allowed by the proposed zone. This slide shows the comparable massing models of these 2 zones for visual comparison. Next slide, please. Administration supports this application. It will facilitate an increase in residential density with convenient access to the LRT and other community amenities. It proposes a scale that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, and it aligns with direction in the SCONA district plan and district policy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go to folks in favor. Jacob DeWong, are you there? No. Carrie Paulina, Caremark Properties in person, please come down this side. Alison Rosland, Situate Inc. in person, please come down. Jerk Connors. Ryan Jakes. Nope. You will have 5 minutes to make your presentations. Go ahead, please.
Great, thank you. Hello and good evening, Mayor Sohi and councilors. My name is Carrie Paulina. I'm the co-owner and president of Caremark Properties, Inc. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of the rezoning application for our property in Belgravia. Next slide, please. Caremark Properties is a local family-run and women-led business that I founded with my husband, Marty Paulina, here in Edmonton, drawing on our combined decades of experience in real estate and land development across the region. Since 2013, we've been building, renovating, and managing rental homes for Edmontonians. We build for the long term to a standard we would live in. Positive tenant experiences matter to us. We focus on providing long-term rentals that people feel good living in and are proud to call home. Every project is managed and maintained by us with a focus on thoughtful design, lasting quality, and being a positive presence in the neighborhoods we're a part of. Next slide, please. Our background is rooted in integrity, design quality, and stewardship. These values are reflected in every project we undertake. This slide represents the quality of our residential projects here in Edmonton's mature neighborhoods. This project consists of the renovation of the main floor bungalow unit retaining the existing 1912 home, the creation of a new secondary suite, and the construction of a new garage suite, all on a single residential lot. We approach each project with a clear vision to complement the existing architectural character of the neighborhoods we build in, deliver high-quality, long-lasting designs, and upgrade units to significantly improve quality of living and long-term environmental and operational viability. Next slide, please. Every property we improve, every project we undertake, from thoughtful renovations to new builds, follows our goal to elevate what was there before. We're driven to create vibrant spaces and to open doors for people who might not otherwise have had the chance to call these incredible mature neighborhoods home. That is precisely our vision for our site in Belgravia. Next slide, please. Our plan is to build ground-oriented long-term rental homes. We hope to build beautiful new homes that complement the neighborhood and reflect the needs of families, professionals, mature students, and aging residents, with thoughtful layouts for people at all life stages. We are applying to rezone to the RSM zone because it will provide the opportunity for more housing units to be built at the site and a greater variety of unit types, including backyard housing. The RSM zone will also allow us to right-size these units with more functional living space, all while maintaining front doors that all face the street. We strongly believe this is the right location and the right time for this kind of missing middle housing. It's a corner lot, just steps from the McKernan-Belgravia LRT station, the Belgravia Elementary School, Belgravia Community Hall, Art Park and Playground, the River Valley Trail System, including significant open space and parks in the Keeler Point Lookout, the University of Alberta campus and hospital, Cross Cancer Institute and the Stollery, and commercial amenities and local businesses. It's exactly where our city plan says we should be adding new housing. Next slide, please. This project specifically addresses the missing middle in Belgravia, an already outstanding 15-minute community. We believe families and workers deserve to live here, especially those who've been priced out of homeownership or lack family-friendly rental options. By providing housing between single-family homes and high-rise apartments, we're building a more diverse and vibrant urban landscape. This approach increases housing choices, improves affordability, and fosters the walkable, denser neighborhoods that the city plan champions. Next slide, please. For Marty and I, Edmonton isn't just a city, it's home. We grew up here, we're raising our family here, and our commitment to its future runs deep. We're investing in projects that will shape Edmonton for generations, creating opportunities for families to find their place in the neighborhoods they cherish. Belgravia is personal to us. We're dedicated to upholding its unique spirit and building something truly exceptional here. With your support, we can bring much-needed housing to this community while helping Edmonton realize its vision for the future. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you so much for joining us and also waiting all day. Next, we will go to Ellison Rosnan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Allison Roseland from Situate, and I'm here to speak in support of our client Caramar Properties proposed rezoning from RS to RSM H12. Next slide, please. In 2024, 16,500 new homes were approved, but in that same time frame, Edmonton welcomed over 65,000 new residents who need about 26,000 homes. This gap means our housing supply isn't keeping pace with demand. We need more homes. At the same time, many Edmontonians want ground-oriented housing, but may not want or be able to afford a single detached house. This proposal will provide more housing options in a walkable, transit-friendly neighborhood and help bridge the missing middle gap by introducing row houses and suites, a form of housing that has historically been underrepresented in Belgravia, as shown from the 2021 data shown here. Next slide, please. This proposal was postponed at the June 9th public hearing in lieu of the changes to the district policy that were brought forward and approved at the June 30th hearing. This application aligned with the district policy before the amendments, and it still aligns now. It is a corner site, and it exceeds the one minimum criteria for additional scale because it's within 100 meters of the secondary corridor, and it is within 400 meters of the McKernan-Belgravia LRT station, making it ideal for transit-oriented development. Next slide, please. We know that change in a neighborhood raises questions. That's why we reached out to the community. In February, we created a project webpage to provide clear information and invite feedback. We mailed postcards to 32 nearby homes. We posted a custom sign with our contact information, and we reached out to the Belgravia Community League. We heard from 5 neighbors with concerns. The most common concerns shared with us in administration were traffic congestion and shortcutting, compatibility and character of single detached housing, and that there's too much infill and that it's not suitable for the neighborhood interior. The Community League also had concerns regarding affordability, landscaping, and environmental impacts. I'll address these concerns throughout the rest of my presentation. Next slide, please. As Carrie mentioned in her presentation, we propose the RSM zone because it will allow for backyard housing as well as units with more livable space. Under the current zoning, up to 8 units is allowed, like 4 row houses with suites. but backyard housing would not be feasible. Rezoning to RSM, which does not have a specific density cap and allows slightly more site coverage, would allow for just 1 or 2 more homes and more functional space inside each home. This flexibility allows our clients to build more livable and family-oriented homes while ensuring redevelopment is incremental and context-sensitive by maintaining street-facing entrances that reinforce a ground-oriented feel that blends into the community, appropriate setbacks to provide separation from neighboring properties, and the same 3-story height allowed in RS, with a modest 1.5 meter increase. As you can see here, this is a corner site with streets and an alley on 3 sides and only one abutting neighbor. The properties to the west and the south have already been redeveloped with 2 and 2.5 stories. Redeveloping this site will add just 1 more story than the neighboring properties. Next slide, please. The most common concern that we heard from the community was traffic, but limiting infill is not going to resolve those issues. These issues need to be addressed through proper traffic management, which is actively being addressed by administration and was discussed earlier this evening. Furthermore, building housing where there is access to multimodal transportation options is key to reducing reliance on personal vehicles. This site is within walking distance of schools, parks, and local businesses. It's in the Communado car share service area, and it's well serviced by bike routes and transit. The LRT station is just 375 meters away. Next slide, please. Landscaping and environmental impacts have also been raised. The RSM zone requires 25% soft landscaping, just 5% less than RS, and requires the same number of trees and shrubs. Redeveloping the site with new homes will add more trees and shrubs than what is currently on the site. Lastly, we heard concerns about affordability. Our clients are committed to keeping the homes as purpose-built, long-term rentals, adding rental stock to a city that urgently needs it. Next slide, please. I'll end with this. City plan is clear. To meet our housing goals, we need homes at a variety of scales, densities, and designs throughout all parts of our residential areas, not just along the edges. This proposal is a step towards meeting those goals and addressing Edmonton's needs for diverse housing options by enabling context-sensitive, ground-oriented development on a well-located corner lot. Exactly the kind of gentle infill our policies envision for vibrant transit-connected neighborhoods. For all these reasons, we ask for your support today. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now we'll go to questions to panel from Councillor Jans. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So, you heard the last debate. What's different?
I think one of the main differences is we're talking about a corner site, right? There's only one abutting property to the west. Otherwise, the site is surrounded on 3 sides by roads and an alley. So there's not that interruption of the block face that was raised earlier in tonight's conversation. But we also have to consider the other contextual features. It's steps away from a school. It's steps away from the LRT station. We're trying to build new homes in our transit-oriented areas, and we need missing middle just like we need other forms of housing, and this is like the type of location where we would want to see that.
So remind me, you're going for the
RSM H12.
RSM H12.
Yes.
So you can do 3 stories, you can do a larger box, you can do 60% site coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Could you point to an example of what that looks like? Like what do you, like, I realize it's not a DC and we can't specify like design guarantees, but am I picturing like the walk-ups on 76 Ave? What?
Yeah, I mean, obviously design doesn't happen at the zoning stage, but we have some intentions that I can speak to. So yeah, our intentions are to do townhouses that face the street on both sides. So all the doors would face the street, because I know that was one of the concerns that's come up over time. We're looking at doing potentially 4 units up, which would be townhouse style, geared towards families, so 3-bedroom units for the townhouse, and then 4 basements under, which we're hoping to do under this zoning. We can fit 2 beds actually. So what's great about that is that we can gear young professionals where they might be looking for an office space, for example, and we've seen that renting. We have long-term rentals in this community already, so we've seen that. And as Allison spoke to, there's no cap on density, but based on the site constraints, there is actually a cap, so 10 units would be the maximum. And so we are looking to do backyard housing as well, 1 or 2 units.
Right. I know I heard from the neighbor directly beside, major concerns about privacy. Would you have the doors facing or the windows facing or looking into, they have like a deck and some windows as well too, like, it might be premature, but how would you mitigate the site impacts on the adjacent neighbor to the west?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously through development permit, we work with the development permit officers on that. That's always a consideration in development permit process anyways, is that we have to maintain that, whether it's through frosting or limiting the open space on that side. But our intention is to have most of the windows facing 116th Street, the avenue, and also potentially the alleyway. But with backyard housing, we also have to limit the windows facing the backyard housing. So we're considerate neighbors. For context, that house was actually redeveloped recently, and they have several windows facing our house right now, and they don't have privacy screening on their windows or balconies or backyard as well. So, so thinking in mind, just keeping in mind that some of these houses have already been developed, their house is actually a recent infill as well. So,
Right.
Yeah.
What would your parking plan be?
again, those are early stages, but with the backyard housing, we are planning to do at minimum of the 4 stalls, which would be for the townhouse units there.
Right. I think that's most of my question. I guess I'm trying to think how you would fit all of those townhouses plus the laneway housing as well. Is it a very large parcel?
I think it's a 50 by 130. Allison would know better. It's a 50 by 130. So, yeah, so we can fit it. The additional site coverage obviously allows us to have the larger units for families.
And because you can go up to 12 meters, is that correct?
Not just the height, it's the site coverage. It's the floor plate, so not just the height.
Okay.
Yeah, just to clarify, Councillor Jans, the site area is 617 square meters, and it's roughly 16 meters by 40 meters, which I'm trying to do that math in my head to feet, sorry.
Nope, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's so you're well over 600. You're 617 then. Okay, I'm good for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, can you take the chair, please?
I have the chair.
You said the height is not an issue, but you don't need extra height, you said?
Again, we haven't finished design, but I think what we're more driven by is the site coverage for this application, actually, to get the larger floor plate for the family-sized units.
So can you build 10 units with, say, RS limiting height, what is 10.5, whatever that is, I think?
Yes, like you could still fit the units with a lower height, yes, but the zoning allows for the additional.
And the zoning allows additional up to 12, right? But why would you, like, if community has concerns about height, right, or neighbors have concerns about height, why would you not give them the certainty that height will remain whatever is allowable under RS, but site coverage will go up?
So when we're rezoning to RSM H12, we don't have control over the height other than the option to either pick 12 or 14 meters, right?
Yeah.
So we can't guarantee that it would be 10.5 meters, but I think the intention is to build 3 stories, and typically that's enough to accommodate, 10.5 meters is sufficient to accommodate within that range, right?
So townhouse is not going beyond 10.5 meters, that's your intent, but it could be higher than 10.5, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You talked about, so all 8 units will have ground level access? 10 units?
They'll face the street, yes.
Face the street?
Yeah, they're planned to face the street.
Okay. And up to 10 units, you said? Up to 10 units?
So there's not a maximum density in the RSM zone. So under, just for clarification, under the RS zone, the maximum is 8 for this site.
Yeah.
But under RSM, it's limited by your setbacks, building height, site coverage. So
But I heard, I think...
yeah, I'm getting there. So when we did preliminary site planning, just to figure out what's feasible on the site, 10 units is roughly what would make the most sense, because you could build 4 row houses with 4 basement suites and then 1 to 2 backyard houses on top of the garage.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. I will take the chair back. I didn't even, I see, did I see the chair to you? Did I see, I did, okay. All right, it's late. Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. Now we'll go to folks in opposition. Rob Kearns, are you there? Rob Kearns.
I'm here. Sorry, it took me a while.
Thank you. Nicole Klein. Felix Meir Stephenson, sorry. No. Sherry Kowalchuk.
I'm still here.
Thank you. Ruth Bonneville.
I'm here.
Thank you. Philippa Armstrong. Sarah Cooper. David Ridley. Nope. Joyce Bolton. Sabina Qureshi.
Hi, I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Rob Kearns. Please go ahead.
Sure. Again, I had some slides. Can you go to slide 3? And sorry, I'm on my phone. I can't.
We can see you the slides. Yep.
Okay. So I guess maybe a little different theme for this talk. I want to challenge the need, right? Belgravia already has numerous multi-unit properties. All of them currently have vacancy, right? 3 of the newest ones all have vacancy. 114th Street, University Ave, 113th Street, University Ave, technically in McKernan, but right across the road. 115th Street, 76th Ave, a very big property that you can either buy or rent in. And I've heard people talk about university students. Residence has 80% occupancy last year, according to CBC, right? So there are lots of options in the neighborhood if you're looking for a multi-unit property. On top of this, there's many more basement suites, apartment rentals, room rentals, and whole house rentals available in Belgravia. So next slide, please. 2 other large multi-unit buildings under construction. So, 114th Street and 76th Ave, I think we've talked about already. It sits right on top of the LRT station, basically. 118 units. And 114th Street, 78th Ave, 141 units. Actually sits on top of the back end of the LRT station. And so if you're looking to rent a multi-unit property, there are tons of options already available. Next slide, please. But if you're a developer, you're saying, well, do I have any options? Well, yes. There's already multiple stalled out builds, and I really do not like looking at these dirt lots, right? 113th Street and 76th Ave. I mean, this has been stalled out for 2.5 years, and again, it's across the street from the LRT station. 113th Street and 114th Street in University Ave. Again, both sides of 114th Street on University Ave, flanked by gravel dirt lots full of weeds, right? There are options available. The worst one is 114th Street and Belgravia Road. This lot, it's already zoned for RM. It has been vacant for over a decade, right? There are options out there. And I guess the last one on my slide is a unused school site, 114th Street and 74th Ave. I recently saw some activity there, but again, a huge opportunity for multi-unit development. But again, if the proponents don't want to buy a gravel lot, there are already existing lots that are underutilized. 3 lots on 76th Ave that are past the end of their usable life, that are already zoned for multi-unit apartments, right? On University Ave, right across the Cross Cancer Center, 3 adjacent lots already zoned for apartments. I don't know how long they've been zoned that way, but according to city maps, they are, right? So again, lots of opportunities there. Next slide, and sorry, it should be on a slide that says priority growth areas. Again, I can't tell what it's showing. This is probably the most important slide. The city spent probably in excess of $1 million doing consultations recently to rezone over 1,200 lots that they thought were in priority growth areas. And this is planning, figuring out where growth should be. So if the developer wants to build a multi-unit property, there are over 1,200 options that they can go and buy today that don't require a rezoning hearing, right? And these are lots that city admin has deemed, priority growth areas for the city. Next slide, which is the last slide. Just to reiterate, Belgravia McKernan has density already. There's numerous options to rent. There's more units currently under construction. And there's hundreds of options for developers that already exist that don't require rezoning. And, I want to say the one big success of the zoning bylaw, and this is somebody that redeveloped a lot in Belgravia, was it reduced the need for rezoning and variances, right?
Thanks, Rob.
What
5 minutes is up.
Was silly.
Okay, so we'll go
Thank
on
you
to
very
the
much.
next speaker.
Great time.
Sherry Kowalchuk, you have 5 minutes, please.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Sure can, go ahead.
So thank you, councillors and Amarjeet Sohi, for the opportunity to express my opposition to bylaw 21184. Many of the points I expressed against bylaw 21174 apply. I did just want to say I feel a bit relieved after listening to the last session and talking about social contracts and trust and listening to your constituents, and the fact that, myself and my neighbors and my fellow Edmontonians were heard. It sounds like a really nice story about what Situate and Carrie is trying to put on this corner lot. But there's not really any guarantee once you put something to an RM that that's what's going to be developed. And I might suggest that the extra 1.5 meters makes a pretty big difference for Ruth and her 2 daughters and husband that live next door. And that the extra 44 to 60% makes quite a big difference as well. And I think that 8 units is still offering a lot of affordable housing on this lot with four units. Townhome you can still do with the basement suites. I just don't see the need to put 10 units on this. I feel that we're talking about gentle density. I think 1 unit to 8 units is gentle density. Maybe not that gentle, but 10 definitely is not gentle. And I think my concern with this one, I really appreciated Situate's presentation and such. And there's a lot of talking there, but there's no guarantee that this lot, once it's rezoned RM, could not be turned around and sold to a developer and to put the boarding houses that we are wondering if that's the best use for our neighborhood. And not just for our neighborhoods, for anybody. If you look at how much the boarding rooms rent out for, it's between $800 till usually $1,100, and you have 26 students in there, as one of the previous BM homes was talking about. It's not affordable, because when I rented my house out in Belgravia, I was renting it out for $3,000 to 5 students, and that actually was much more affordable. So I guess my thought is, I just want to put to council is, let's think about the reason why we did this bylaw change. And I'm not anti-infill. I want increased density. I just want to be mindful of the community, the vibrancy of it, respecting homeowners' rights to their property to enjoy it. and, and their property values. I feel like if this property is upload zone from an RS to an RSM, speaking as a realtor, I've been in real estate for over 20 years, there's going to be at least a 10% decrease in property to Ruth's home next door. And that's substantial. That's people's real lives. And so I just want you to think about how this actually impacts the people that live in the adjacent properties, and whether we really need those extra 2 units, and whether the harm caused by those extra 2 units, if indeed that is what is built there and not the 26 units or the 26 rooms or the boarding house, does the harm justify that upzoning? And I would suggest that we can probably do a really great job of adding density to our city with eight units on this property, which is the existing zoning. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sherry. Ruth Bonneville, you're up next.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks for.
Go ahead.
Thanks
You've got
for
5 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my concerns about this rezoning application. Me and my family are on vacation and we're getting kind of tired. We're 3 hours on the East Coast. We are, as has been mentioned before, we are the abutting property. We built a home on the property directly to the west in 2015. We knew at the time that there was that the zoning of the adjacent lot would allow for higher density, but we never could have imagined rezoning of the lot to a 60% coverage with unlimited units and will look like an apartment building. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to speak today, partly because I don't believe that my neighbors, many of who are very elderly and dealing with ongoing health issues, have been appropriately engaged to oppose this rezoning application. I think we see that in the numbers that have been presented. Belgravia is one of Edmonton's oldest neighborhoods. People love to live here and walk through it due to its mature trees and well-kept yards and gardens. We sent a letter to Councillor Jans, and I spoke with him, and to the city clerk outlining the numerous reasons we oppose this zoning application, of course, including traffic, which has been discussed at length, and parking, which are huge issues for us. What I haven't heard in these discussions is the narrow roadways that we have in Belgravia. This proposed level of density does not seem to be accounted for in the narrow roads that we have in Belgravia. I wanted to argue a few points from the planning report that were submitted for the rezoning application. On page 2, the table lists that the adjacent lots are single detached houses, but what's not listed or indicated is that they've already been redeveloped. Every adjacent property that's listed here has been redeveloped within the last 10 to 15 years. So this interior location within Belgravia is not in the process of turning over. This is a single lot and the only lot remaining to be redeveloped. The RSM zoning does not fit at this location, and the existing home should set precedence here. Of the 5 district policy criteria, this location meets 3 of them, but 2 of those are borderline, which have already been discussed in the previous bylaw. Regarding 76th Ave as a secondary corridor between 115 and 116 is pretty questionable, as the usage is no difference from that further west. The 400 meters from the Belgravia LRT station is also borderline. The whole lot doesn't fit within this radius and is the only property on our block that fits, and it shouldn't be included in this. The zoning comparison rendering shows the current zoning and proposed rezoning, and even that 10.5 height is out of place, and many of the existing buildings are not shown accurately in this rendering. The tallest structure showing is actually mistakenly our 90-year-old elm tree in our backyard that we preserved during building of our home. I hope that you'll consider the impact this very large-scale development would have on our neighborhood, and particularly on our backyard and second-floor balcony on the southeast corner of our home, and likely the reduction of our property value. It goes against the city's climate resiliency policy, also limiting our sunlight for gardening, solar power, and overall enjoyment, and the loss of replacement of large trees. We can't understand the need for the developer to rezone this lot except to maximize their profits. This type of rezoning, according to the city's own analysis, is quite unique. in the 1-year review of the zoning data showed that there were more than 1,000 row housing approvals in the RS zone in 2024, but only 7 from RS to RSM. The rezoning of this lot is unnecessary to meet the city's infill goals, and an 8-unit row house is already accessible to this interior location surrounded by single-family homes. Please reject this application.
Thank you very much, Ruth. And
Thank you.
Sabina Qureshi, you're next. 5 minutes.
Yes, hi,
Thank you.
I'm here. Yeah. So I basically want to just affirm what other people have been saying about this proposal. And I do have some other points that I'd like to go through. Basically, I think that this should be left as an RS in the RS zone. An 8-plex will work just fine. And I think 8 plexes, as somebody else said, from on one lot to go from a single family home to an 8-plex, that would be sort of what I would see as gentle densification. We've agreed on that. That's the social contract that Mayor Sohi was talking about. Given the previous discussions and the agreement that was reached. I think that a taller building here doesn't fit the context of the neighborhood, and especially the directly adjacent lot, as we heard from Ruth. So I think you could do a 4-plex row house with 4 basement units, and that would be the density that would fit here, and it wouldn't drastically change the streetscape. The other problem with RSM is that it doesn't have the higher design standards that RS now has. So we don't know for sure what would be built and what it would look like. Something much more ugly could be put up. And I also think council should probably fix that. So here again, this is a good reason not to upzone, because with 8 units, you actually already have a considerable increase in density. And in general, people want their own space, their own front door, their own yard. Row housing can provide this. If you have a larger building with side entrances, it doesn't give that same sense of place. Side lot frontages are valuable in this regard. The side yards provide the air, the sun, the private doorway, a sense of own place, and that's what people want. And of course, it's a much more attainable price than a single family home. So I'd say let's not rush to put a shoebox of 10 or 12 units on every corner lot that we can. These corner lots are a beautiful opportunity in the RS zone. So basically, I just want to say I support maintaining the RS zone. I would not agree with going to upzoning. And I think that that would work very well. Yeah, can't think of anything else to say at this point. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone. And thank you for waiting. Now we'll go to questions from Council. Councilor Jans, you have questions?
I do. I believe on the last report, when I go to the administration presentation under Community Insights, there was over 100 in opposition. Am I reading this correctly that there's 8 in opposition here?
We are asking questions to the members of the public in opposition.
Yeah.
So who are you asking questions
Yeah,
to?
that question was for administration. I'm not sure. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything in the piece. I have no further questions to the speakers. It was clear.
Okay.
Well, can I just answer, because actually there are many more people who oppose this than are here speaking tonight. I know that from talking to them.
Yeah, if I can ask Guest Qureshi then, did what do you attribute the difference in letters, or were submissions not sent in? Was the public hearing notice different, or I just want to make sure I didn't lose 92 letters somewhere.
Right. I'm not sure why more letters weren't sent in, but I think it may have something to do with what Ruth was saying earlier when she spoke about the residents on that particular block and in that area, like not on 76, but on 75th, I often walk on that street, and there are many elderly people with really severe health problems who live there, and who don't use technology, so they wouldn't be able to do like the kind of civic action, to speak up on this. And I don't think anybody canvassed, like none of us went around and talked to them to get their names and put them on a list. But I have heard their comments, so I know there's a lot of opposition to this.
Okay, I'll ask administration.
May I interject? Sorry, Councillor Jans. I can say as well, this is a quarter lot. And I think that when I've spoken to my neighbors, some feel like, oh, well, we're not going to win because, it's a corner lot. So we have to pick our battles. And I understand there's some compromise. So I think that maybe people felt like they weren't going to be heard.
Okay,
So,
I appreciate that. I'll ask administration. I just want to make sure that the proper process is being followed, and I didn't miss anything, or they didn't miss anything, or anything else like that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. Councillor Knack.
Thanks, Mayor Sohi. So I did want to ask, so I think, Sherry, you were the one that raised the concern about, and I know our missing pin might virtually slap my hand, but you raised the comment around this would somehow generate a loss in property value, and I am curious a little bit about the context conversation here, being that this is a corner lot surrounded by two-story homes. So this does feel different, and I guess I'm wondering sort of the data that you would have where those two units, if they add two units at the back, that's what would generate a loss in value. I guess I'm not necessarily seeing the same considerations on this as I am the one that we just discussed, and so maybe you can help me connect those dots.
Sure. So it'd be hard for me to give very hard data at this point because these new RSMs are just coming to be built, and I have not seen them turn over like the houses beside them too much. I know there's several sites in Belgravia where the zonings have been approved or they're under construction, and the homeowners have tried to sell, and they have not had success at selling, or the value had to be dropped a lot. Ruth's house in particular is a newer construction, a larger home, a more high-end home, and would be more affected. So when we're talking about adding an extra 1.5 meters, that's 5 feet. That's quite substantial. On the east side of her lot, she would have almost no sun in her yard. And then you're adding the two, the suites at the back, or I guess they would be garden suites, the units at the back. And you would have almost, like I was in her yard last week talking with her. So it would very much, most buyers wouldn't buy her house in that price range.
Okay, so it's primarily more the height than it would be the sort of the length of the site coverage combined with the height is what you're raising as the potential risk to the property value, even though it's a newer property, which on one hand helps generate more investment. It's the potential shadowing in the morning, I think, because of where it's placed, that would be an impact on the morning shadow.
And the lack of, and I think the lack of privacy by having extra stories.
Okay.
By having the full 3 stories.
And do you find, and again, just want to get your insight from this, because I think if we're talking about the property to the west, which has its own sort of balcony facing the backyard of the other home, like that, would that have also generated potentially a similar impact on that property? And is this sort of the minute you go above 1 story, if you have anything that's sort of a balcony or
as far as property value, are you referring to?
I'm curious about. Yeah.
No, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. In newer, no, it would.
Okay, no, that's fair. Yeah, I was just curious. No, that's fair. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then maybe, Mr. Cairns, I wanted to ask you again, because I think I wanted to ask just this context question here, because again, to me, on the surface, this does feel a bit different. It feels like we're talking about 2 very different considerations because of corner lot because of new homes surrounding it compared to what we just talked about. Can you tell me why you don't necessarily feel that way? Because you had that presentation on the first item, you've had a similar presentation on the second, and so you're viewing these as very similar.
Sure, I thought I had two very different presentations, but I mean, the second presentation was mostly to show that there are opportunities to develop these multi-unit properties all over Belgravia, right? I mean, I'm not sure why we spent, an hour plus talking about whether this site should have 8 or 10 units, right? Later in this same public hearing, you're talking about a 27-story building, right? That's where council should be spending their time on. They're asking for what they're asking for. They already have almost 90% of what they need in the RS zone, right?
Okay.
To me,
No,
this is a lots of waste of everyone's time and resources.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's my time.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Councillor Tang.
Just to follow up on that, Rob, maybe just continue on. I recognize that you did give two different presentations. I'm looking at your deck here, and I understand that's for the 4 different applications. And so in the last one, you had the slide around the RS to RSM limited to corner lots. And that was for the presentation last one. So here we are with a corner lot, but your rationale was more focused around the demand and the fact that you have a lot of other opportunities around the area. Is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, you shouldn't have to listen to me talk 4 times on 4 single lot rezonings. But B, I thought that was a weaker presentation, and there were weaker points. I mean, the most important points are that there are opportunities, and I guess to me personally, I hate driving by or biking by or walking by these dirt lots, and I don't know why they're not being developed. So I see there's opportunities out there for developments that don't require me to attend these meetings.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I don't know why they're not.
That's what
either. Yeah, I mean, the different ownership and different opportunities, like I suppose. But okay, so that was kind of, I had a similar just point of clarification here. Thanks for that. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Tang. So that concludes the questions to community members in opposition. Now we will go to questions to administration. Councillor Jans.
Same question. Just looking at the stats there, making sure there wasn't an error.
Nothing missed here. In fact, in this case, we decided to double the notification radius, so that went out to over 200 people. And as to why there was less interest in this one as opposed to the one on 76th Ave, I could really only speculate. It could be that there's a general acceptance for this type of thing on a corner, but again, that's just speculation.
Okay, so the 76 Ave one, however, the previous one was sent out, and there were over 100 opposed, and that seems to be reflective of my inbox as well. I just want to make sure we didn't. I miss things sometimes. I just
nope. Sure. It's an accurate description of both applications. Yeah.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. Councillor Wright, can you take?
I have the chair.
So the minimum lot size requirement for building 8 units is about 600 square meter and more, right?
Approximately. I'm not sure. I don't have how large this site is off the top of my head, but
what
yes.
I heard that this lot is about 617.
Okay, yeah.
It's slightly larger.
Yeah, and divided by the site area, the minimum site area per minimum site area per dwelling, which is 75. You're going to get 8.
Yes, so they can, if they choose to, they can still build 8 units.
Yes.
On this site. right?
Under the RS zone, yes.
So are there any other consideration for you other than being it within 400 radius of the LRT, or what are the other policy considerations that you have looked at in support of this application?
In addition to the fact that it's within 400 meters of the LRT station, the other two major considerations for us are the fact that it's a corner site and the fact that it's also less than 100 meters from the 76th Avenue secondary corridor.
Okay. But again, the difference is about whether 8 units or 10 units, up to 10 units.
Based on what they're planning to do under the RSM zone, yes.
Okay, thanks. I'll take the chair back.
Chair.
Okay. That concludes questions to administration. This time I'll ask if there are any questions to the folks in favor, folks in opposition, or to administration on any new information arising out of the previous conversation. I see none. We are ready to close the public hearing. Who would like to move to close the public hearing on this bylaw?
Would Councillor Jans? I'll close.
Councillor Wright, need a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Knack. Okay. Please vote.
I'm a yes, and reloading my e-scribe.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Rutherford and Councillor Wright.
I'm also a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We have all of the votes.
Okay, display the votes, please. That is carried.
I would like to move first reading on item 3.7, please.
Second.
Okay, we have a first reading on the floor. Now to speak. Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this application represents the kind of land use that might make more sense based on our criteria for this area. As we heard, it's within 400 meters of LRT. It is on a corner lot, which makes to my mind, a much bigger difference. And it is close to other major secondary corridors. So it provides a sensible transition to the surrounding neighborhood based on that corner lot context. As you can see in the map, the structure that's currently there is dwarfed by the other structures, and so they are larger context, going toward mid-block. It sits well within the broader framework around the things that we want to see. And from a land use perspective, this is growth that respects context while also adding needed housing. It's the right form in the right place, and while I believe 8 can already be built there, the slightly larger form, as far as I understand it, will allow for a little bit more space for the people who live there, but that's really not one of my considerations, frankly. So, to my mind, this is a sound and an appropriate rezoning. And while that opinion may not be as well received as the last decision, I think that it's also a fair one. And just on a personal note, I mean, where I live, I remember when we used to see the sunrise all the time. I loved it, and a house went up beside me. But I live in a city, and things do change depending on context and need. And I certainly don't begrudge my neighbors or this city for allowing my neighbor to build, because this is sort of the compact that we make when we decide to move within any sort of city, a town. This can happen anywhere that people dwell where you don't have your own acreage without anyone ever being near you. And that's a really cold comfort for folks who just don't want it. But it is one of the realities of living in any community. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jans.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I think the RS lot is sufficient, and I appreciate the product and the attention to do more row housing and this type of development. But in this location, and given the other challenges at the moment that we're facing in the community, I'm not leaning towards supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack.
Thanks, Mayor Sohi. I guess for me, I think I'd echo a lot of what I heard from Councillor Paquette. I'm seeing these two as unique conversations, as we do with all rezoning applications. We take into some unique considerations, and I'm grabbing onto a few things. So again, number one, this being a corner lot, I do think that provides some unique opportunities in terms of it being surrounded by either an alley or streets and an avenue. I think the fact that it's surrounded by newer homes, which are already taller as well, appreciate they won't be quite as tall as this, similar to how those new homes built beside this bungalow would have been taller at the time as well. And so I heard some really thoughtful points raised by a lot of my colleagues during the last conversation about what makes the mid-block piece unique around the RSM. And so I felt at the end of the day, after the end of that discussion, that I was willing to defer to the wisdom of my colleagues and say, okay, for the mid-block, let's have a more detailed conversation about that. Let's have a policy discussion. I'm still awaiting that subsequent motion, which I imagine will come out at the end of this item. But I'm not sure I see these two items as the same, which is why I'm willing to treat them differently from one another. And I think there's a good opportunity here to have more development. And this site coverage on a corner lot would allow for more opportunity for those multi-bedroom units. And so for me, I'm comfortable with this rezoning in this particular area. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford.
Just to be really brief, as with every public hearing, listening to the speakers and keeping an open mind, as I will continue to do in future RSM rezonings, I do see the distinction here, and will be supporting this one. It makes sense at a corner lot, and I think the developer here, while we do have to always look out for the highest and best use, seems to have really good ideas for ways that can fit in nicely in context. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Wright, can you take the chair?
I will take the chair.
No, I really appreciate the presentation from the applicant. Some of the projects you have built look pretty nice, and really admire your commitment to the community and the way you have been building in our city and providing rental choices and good quality rental choices. I appreciate that. So I don't want to take away that from you by not supporting this. My opposition to this is not about the project. It's more about, in my mind, the social contract that we have agreed to with the communities. This lot still allows up to 8 units to be built, and the difference between 8 and 10, I understand. 2 additional units do make economics work sometimes. I hope that economics will work based on on 8 units as well. For me, it's a broader question of bringing communities along, and I'm hearing from this community that has seen we have seen quite a bit of opposition from this community to infill in the past. Now this community is coming along and accepting that as a city we have come to this agreement that we will allow density, gentle density to a certain number of units, and I want to stick to that. So I would not be able to support this application. With that, I will take the chair back and go to Councillor Wright to close.
Nothing further, or I guess I am in support of this because it is the corner lot, and from what the proponent has stated, I think it's a little different than. Sorry, with the townhouses, I think it's a little bit different from what else has been shown in this area, and I think Mr. Karen's photos as well is more the multi-unit ones, the larger complexes, and I think these townhouses provide that that nice mix of housing type.
Thank you. Please vote.
Yes.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
And I will move second reading.
Second.
Okay, please vote for the second reading.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
And consideration for third reading.
Please vote.
Second.
Okay, please vote for the consideration.
Yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. Consideration is granted.
And I move third reading on bylaw 21184.
Okay,
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please.
Point of order.
Yes.
I voted incorrect.
Okay, we will just recall the vote. We'll vote again. Please vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Just need one moment.
It did not come. I'm no.
Just waiting. Just hold on. Here we go. Please vote.
Councillor Rutherford was yes, I believe. Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Okay. Subsequent. Councillor Salvador, you have a subsequent? Go ahead, please.
Yep, so I'll move that administration provide a report on potential amendments to the zoning bylaw or district plans for consideration to limit mid-block redevelopment, larger than small-scale development outside of nodes and corridors with consideration of site size, height, and context, due date, fourth quarter of 2026 to Urban Planning Committee.
Second.
Introduction, please.
Oh, sure. Yeah, just I guess a brief introduction, building on the conversation we had just an item ago. You know, thoughts around sort of single lot rezonings versus how that context might change if there's a consolidation of a lot. What I think this motion does, it allows us to have that conversation at committee without jumping to amendments right away. So trying to take a thoughtful approach around what that might look like. And yeah, I think for me, after seeing how the new zoning bylaw in conjunction with district plans have been materializing in our communities and in real life, I think this would be prudent to take a look at. I think about, yeah, how things like minimum site size or a larger lot might support just more frontage and better articulation, more thoughtful design, and just some additional space to integrate more thoughtfully into a block face. So yeah, would look forward to this coming back, but happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions?
And-
Councillor Principe?
Apologies, just a point of order, just in terms of the wording that's up on the screen. I just want to make sure the clerk has my wording that's slightly changed. It should be in the chat right now. There you go.
Sorry, what is the change?
It's just very slight. It's just to provide a report on potential amendments. I do want to make sure it comes back to committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Councillor Principe, go ahead, please.
Okay, I was just going to ask if it could be a report back on potential amendments. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Jans?
Yeah, to the movers, sorry, it might be the hour here. What exactly is the impact of this? Plain language me.
Yeah, so for example, the item that we had just 2 items ago now, when we were considering the mid-block sort of single lot rezoning or upzoning, we heard concerns around what that might mean, as opposed to a lot that is maybe like consolidated or a corner lot, a slightly different context. So this will allow us to have a conversation about what it would look like to limit that sort of one-off mid-block single lot development outside of nodes and corridors. So just trying to respond to the concerns that were raised in the item that we just discussed. And again, coming back as a report so that we can have a more fulsome conversation at committee.
Right, so this would allow us to further refine district plans.
Yeah.
And looking at some of those nodes and corridors areas.
Well, this would be outside of nodes and corridors.
Okay.
I think for the most part, I've heard fairly consistently that if things are, right within a primary corridor, a secondary corridor, there's an understanding that that's where we, of course, want to see that density being built up. But I think there's still a few lingering questions around how we do that in the best possible way when things are outside of those nodes and corridors. So this is about, just taking a thoughtful approach, trying to refine things in response to some of the feedback that we've been hearing coming up over the last year and a bit as we've seen this in action.
Right, so I'm trying to think of a few of the other ones that we've seen pop up that this would offer a lot more clarity around where we want to grow. Okay, yeah, full support. Thank you.
Councillor Rice?
Thank you. So this is a subsequent motion for 3.7. We just passed. This specifically talk about the mid-block redevelopment. I just want to ask administration how this subsequent motion is not linked to the previous one as a mid-block development, and then instead of linked to this one actually is a corner lot.
Councillor, it's linked to both. Like the motion speaks to limiting development mid-block. As a consequence, it may push development to the corner lots. So in that sense, it's linked to both the mid-block discussion as well as corner lots or consolidated lots, minimum lot size. It's relevant to both.
So right now, and the intention is just limited this larger mid-block redevelopment larger than small-scale development. To the mover, the intention is actually to really limit it from RS to RSM. Is that right?
This would not be about RS, no.
No, is then so then what's limited scope definition? So and what's specific limited you want to limit?
Yeah, so the motion references mid-block development that is larger than small-scale development. So we wouldn't be talking about things within the RS zone. So it would be above the RS zone.
So limited that. So I'm still confusing and the scope of the limitation. So can you be more specific of what the scope of limitation you would like to do it? Focused on anything larger than small scale development or this specific zone?
Larger than small scale development.
Any
Yes,
zone,
correct.
any zone. So there's no specific limitation. Just any zone is larger than small scale development.
Yes. Maybe I'm missing the question. I apologize. Maybe if you want to direct it to administration to make sure that our interpretation is correct and that we're on the same page.
Like for me, and then I fully support and for limited mid-block redevelopment. For me, this is just not very clear for the scope. Maybe someone could give more specific idea of the scope of the limitation. Is any zone or some zone as long as it's larger than small scale development?
Councillor, this is Shauna speaking. Our interpretation of this is anything larger than the RS zone. So RSM, RM, anything above any zone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rutherford, please.
Yeah, I guess due to the mover, it says potential amendments to the zoning bylaw or district plans. I would prefer the district plans. Is there a reason you're not limiting it to just the district plans?
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly where I would land either. Whether it would be more appropriate to have some of those tweaks and adjustments embedded in the zoning itself, or if it would make more sense for it to be at a policy level in the district plan. So the intention was to allow for that flexibility for administration to come back and say, maybe it is more appropriate at a district plan level, or maybe there are tools within the zoning itself that could achieve a similar outcome. So that was my intention, but happy to.
Yeah, I guess just the way it's worded, I'm a little bit worried about. So like I think about like the fact that mid-block rezonings of the mid-scale are challenging in some contexts, but there are contexts that I think we'd want to overlay in something like the district plans, like when it is, within a certain distance of mass transit, which you can't do that at the zoning bylaw level, right? Maybe do you have any thoughts on that before I go to administration?
You can feel free to go to administration.
So this is anything outside of nodes and corridors that doesn't preclude us from looking at outside nodes and corridors, yet within the 400 meters. It doesn't mean that we're not going to look at the 400 meters in proximity to mass transit stations. It's just the flexibility to look at properties outside of nodes and corridors and the context, whether that's the consolidation, the minimum
But would you be recommending, we don't recommend limiting based on context, such as within a certain meter, like I get the 400 meters,
Yes.
we're kind of cuspy, but like I feel like 200 meters is a slam dunk, right? Like there's a lot of context pieces.
Right. So there's a number of motions that are out there right now
Yeah.
with respect to district planning, but one of them is the gradient, the whole what are we doing outside of nodes and corridors? So this conversation needs to happen in context with that. But what I'm trying to say is that we're not disregarding mass transit stations.
And what about in our priority growth areas?
Same thing. We're not disregarding priority growth areas.
So
Councillor, sorry. What this allows us to do is evaluate those options and bring those options and recommendations back to committee. So you can see a full breadth of options and then vote moving forward. And we purposely kept it broad to both the zoning bylaw and the district plan so that we can explore both of them.
Okay, so when this report comes back, we can expect to see, because like just the way it's worded in the current motion on the floor, it is specifically consideration to limit. I don't want to necessarily expand, but that consideration to limit would also suggest where we keep it the same. That's what the report will say. Or will
Yes.
it will say these are all the options to limit?
Yes, it wouldn't just be limit everything outside of nodes and corridors. We'd have to look at that context of whether it's TOD, transit stations, et cetera. So that's what we understand the intent of.
Because we have already in the district plans under the district policy, where we'll consider further height. And then we just recently amended that as well. I think we took away or we said instead of 4, it had to be, I can't remember what we did now, but.
Correct, yeah, there's some recent amendments on there, and we'll take that into consideration as we move forward. Also, the intent and the conversation that we had here today around RS and the social contract of RS and how that interacts with the district policy and the zoning bylaw.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Paquette.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on that. So essentially, my colleague has really, I think, legitimate concerns, but we won't know those answers until you come back. But my assumption, as you mentioned, would be, and this is, I guess, the question: do you require in the motion any wording that expands it to be within strategic areas and things like that, or do you pretty much understand what this is?
No, I think we understand, and we're good with that, the way it's worded, and all of the myriad of different contexts, whether it's a TOD, maybe it's next to another activity node, et cetera. So there's lots of options out there, and we would look to bring back different options for you to consider.
And from now to then, councillors who would like clarity, they're free to come and talk to you and say, hey, have we considered this? Is this going to be in the report? And get clarity that way as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. That concludes the questions. We have motion on the floor. We got 3 minutes. I don't know if anybody wants to speak. Speak fast, 30 seconds, Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate Councillor Salvador putting this motion on. I've sort of been feeling that, RS to RSM is the new RF1 to RF3. And part of the reason that we did the zoning bylaw renewal was to avoid these single site rezonings. A speaker spoke today from the public about us needing to spend our time on sort of those more strategic pieces. So I look forward to this work. I think it'll provide greater certainty to neighborhoods, folks investing in building new homes in our community, and also to our poor administration who gets so many mixed messages around this work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Salvador.
Oh, that was well said. That's
Well said. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Okay, so we concluded 3.7 and on 28th, right? August 28th?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just remind folks that you are in an open public hearing, so there's a number of items that haven't been finished. So I just want to remind you that when these matters return on the 28th, your decision needs to be made based on the information that you receive in these meetings. So during the time before the continuation of this meeting, I invite you to be very careful about engaging on these issues and taking positions in the media or seeking further information.
Thank you. And we will start with 3.8 Bylaw 21194 on 28th. Thank you so much, everyone. Until then, we are we are not really on recess. We are coming back tomorrow on a different meeting, but this meeting is on recess until the 28th. Okay, thank you.